Hey subscribers and watchers, what's up? This is me, Vebs from SlideNerd here. In this video, I'm going to show you a simple example of how to store a file to the internal storage in Android, which means the primary memory. In the last video, I was talking about the concept behind this. I will include a link to that video in the description text below. So what I have here is a main activity. Let's take a look at its layout. Username, password. My idea is that when you click on the save button, this username and the password data is going to be returned to some file, and then there is a go to B. Click on this go to B button. It's going to take you to activity_second.xml, whose layout is like this. There's a load button, there's a previous button. So here again, if I click load over here, the data is going to be loaded from the file inside this username and inside this password field over here. If I click previous, it's going to take me back to my activity_main.xml. This is the whole idea. So again, for these buttons save and go to B, have an on-click attribute that's gonna call these two methods, public void save and public void next. Same way for my second activity, which is activity_second.xml, the load button, the previous button, there are on-click attributes that are gonna call public void load over here and public void previous over here. And if you guys notice, there's nothing great, just an explicit intent written over here to call main activity.class from the second activity.java and call the second activity.class from the main activity.java. So this is the overall idea. Now when I hit the save button, this is where all the work should be performed about saving the file. So the first thing I have is my edit text, which is username and password, which is this two edit text that you see over here. And then if you go back, I can simply initialize them by saying find view by ID, and that takes care of everything. So now let's first see how to save the file. The first thing I need to do is extract the data from this edit text, which is username. So I'm going to simply say string text1 is username dot get text, which gives me an editable. So I need to convert that to a string by saying dot to string. I need to replicate the same step and get the password inside a string text2 over here. So at this point, text1 contains the username, for example say Vivs, and text2 contains the password, for example say 123. So we need to write both these pieces of data. So I'm going to call open file output, which is going to be responsible for writing data. So as you guys notice, there's a second method which we're going to use. I'm going to say open file output, the name of the file that we want to store the data inside. I'm going to say vivs.txt over here, and then the mode, which means who else can see the data returned by this app. I'm going to say context.mode private, which means only my app can see all the data. Now this is gonna give me an object of file output stream, which I'm gonna say as file output stream FOS. Now if you guys are from a Java background, then you know very well what file output stream does. Otherwise, for others, let me tell you this: file output stream is an object that is responsible for writing data to files in Java. So this is gonna directly give you methods to write data. For example, I can go down and simply say file output stream dot write, and as you guys notice, this directly writes data to that file. But there is something weird over here. You guys notice it says write byte buffer, which is a byte array, and then it says write int 1 byte. It's talking about writing just 1 byte or writing a byte array. There is nowhere a mention of writing string over here, right? So what we have here is text1 and text2 are basically strings, so we need to convert them to bytes. So let me say write over here, take our string which is text1, and then I'm going to say dot get bytes. Now same way I need to write the other one, which I'm going to say file output stream dot write text2 dot get bytes, the same way, and that takes care of writing both. Now there is however one problem. When you run these two methods one after the other, what is going to be written inside the file is something like this: vivs123, the username first and then the password. What we need is a space in between so that we can distinguish what is the username and what is the password, and probably try to extract this from our file. So for that, what I'm going to do here, going down over here, I'm going to append a space at the end of username. Now if you guys remember, strings cannot be modified directly in Java. So what I'm going to do is something like this: text1 equals to text1 plus an empty space. That's all. So this time text1 actually contains a reference to Vivs space, and that is exactly what is going to be written over here when I say file output stream.write text1.getBytes, Vivs space will be written, and then 123 will be written over the second step. Now I'm sure you guys have been observing there are some nice red lines over here, and you guys notice it says unhandled exception blah blah blah. So when you're trying to open a file, there is a chance that that file is not found or cannot be created because of some incorrect permissions and stuff like that. So in those cases there can be an exception, so you gotta handle that. Press Ctrl 1 and say surround with try catch, and now as you guys notice it says file not found exception, which means if something goes wrong at this statement over here, this catch will be executed, and here you can write a message or print a toast or do something that tells the user that hey, the file was not found. Let me take these two statements and again paste them inside this right below this. So here I'm gonna paste them, and again there are some red lines. Now writing data also causes another type of exception, so I'm gonna say Ctrl 1, try to handle this by saying add catch clause to surrounding try statement, and what this does is adds another catch over here that says IO exception. Now remember, it is not necessary that your file will be completely written successfully, right? Let's just say you're trying to write 1 GB of data from your app to your file, of course, which you're not gonna do, but what happens if your app or your mobile suddenly restarts in between, right? So in those kind of cases, what you can have is this catch statement getting executed, which says that hey, for some reason the operation did not execute successfully, and that's what the IO exception is all about. So based on these two things, we have written the data successfully. Now all we need to do is close stuff. So now I'm going to say file output stream dot close. Now input streams and output streams are just like taps connected between your house and the tank. So if you keep the tap open, you're gonna waste water. In other words, if you keep the file output stream or the file input stream open, you're gonna waste resources on your device. So you gotta make sure that you close it. But this is not the correct way to close things. Remember, there can be an exception at this step, or there can be an exception at this step, which means that if an exception occurs, this statement over here will never be executed. Hence, what I'm gonna do is use some clause called finally over here. I'm gonna say finally like this. Now if you guys remember from a Java background, finally is a statement which always executes. It is like, hey, I don't care if you have an exception or not, but I'm gonna run anyway. It's that kind of statement. So inside this, we can say file output stream.close, and that will ensure that whether our app runs successfully, whether our app crashes, the file output stream will always be closed, giving a better user, you can say, resource usage in terms of device, right? So let's see, again there's a red line over here. It says local variable blah blah blah. Now if you guys notice, this file output stream is over here. I'm gonna put null over here to this value, and that should be pretty good. Again, there is an error. It says unhandled exception. Now even while closing, there can be some exception. So again, press Ctrl 1, surround with try catch, and that takes care of handling that exception. Though this is the kind of code you need to write data to your app. And at this point, you're basically done writing data, so you can say saved successfully. Now it would be very good if you can actually tell where the file was saved. How do you do that? Very simple. Make a file object over here, call it file equals to null. So which directory is this file getting saved? That's our question. So I'm going to say file equals to, there is a method in Android that says get files dir. In other words, give me the directory where the files are going to be saved, and this directly gives me the file directory, and this gives an indication of where things are saved. So here I can directly say something like saved successfully plus file over here dot toString. So there's no need to call toString, you can directly say file, I think. Yep, that should work pretty well. So this is gonna give me the directory or the folder inside which our vivs.txt got saved. We can also go ahead and actually append this something like this by saying vivs.txt, and that would give me the exact path. So let us see how this thing runs. Now remember, for all the exceptions that we have here, it's best practice to actually log them while development purposes, and for production purposes you can probably have a message displayed to the user in some dialog fragment saying something happened, e.toString. So let me copy paste this. So at this point, my username, password, I'm gonna put the username as vivs over here, the password maybe as something like 123456, and I'm gonna click save over here, which is gonna execute all the code that we wrote over here for saving our file. It says saved successfully. Oops, I didn't even see the message. Again, if I click save, let me see what it says. Data/data Slidener.wivs files wivs.txt. So that was the URL. Let's try to actually see if there is the data. I'm gonna go to the DDMS perspective over here, select the process that is running, that Slidener.wivs over here, go to data and go there to data/my package name, just Slidener.wivs. Here, if you guys notice, there's the files over here, and then there is the wivs.txt. So let me actually download this to my computer because this is currently inside the emulator. I'm gonna click pull a file from the device over here at the top. I'm gonna put this inside my music folder, select this file, just save it, and let's actually see how that file looks. So going to music here, wivs.txt, and as you guys notice, it says wivs and 1.3. So now you guys probably understand the reason why I put a space over here between the username and the password, so that they both can be separated, because then we can extract the data easily from them, right? So in the next video, I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys how to read this file and pull the data from that file. In the meantime, if you guys do like what you saw, please like this video, share this video, let us know your thoughts in the comment boxes below, and subscribe to our channel. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Have a nice day.